Vampires, werewolves, golems, spider hosts. Vampire Hunter D slays them all. It's one of the greatest things about the anime classic from 1985, and from the somehow even more classic sequel, Bloodlust, from 2000. But what if I told you there were dozens more stories by the creator of Vampire Hunter D, all written directly by him, and each and every one as riveting, fresh, and original as the first story? So yeah, if you didn't already know, the original Vampire Hunter D anime film was based on a light novel by Hideyuki Kikuchi, published a couple years before. And Kikuchi-san has written 55 more light novels at the time of this recording, detailing the bloody misadventures of D himself. Of those dozens of books, the third one was loosely adapted into the feature film Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and only the first 7 books have been adapted into manga. A privately written short story was also converted into a graphic novel called Vampire Hunter D Message from Mars. This project was kickstarted by some folks from a movie production company that is essentially trying to use the graphic novel to garner interest in a new feature-length film or TV series, and some of the folks from this project have an official podcast called Lefty Speaks, where they dish on Hollywood and generally provide some amazing highlights into everything Vampire Hunter D from an entertainment industry perspective. I'll leave links below. Incidentally, if you're only now learning about the Vampire Hunter D novels, you're in luck because they are all being released in a big, fat, inexpensive omnibus format, each volume containing 3 novels. So you can support the franchise and get a fresh piece of the action by picking up these books wherever they're sold. I'll leave a link below for those as well. So far, I've read a handful of the novels, and I've been struck by one thing in particular. Well, 2 things. The first is that Kikuchi-san is a master world builder, not just from what he establishes about the gothic dying earth horror sci-fi world in the first book, but with each and every subsequent book. There are new details added that organically and cohesively mesh into the fabric of this universe with every novel that I read. The second thing I've been struck by is that the variety of monsters, specters, mutants, and beasts that the protagonist faces on the so-called frontier, this post-apocalyptic wasteland in which the story takes place, is utterly vast. There seems to be no end to the different creatures and threats that D faces. All this leads me to one unavoidable conclusion. Vampire Hunter D would make a perfect tabletop RPG. To that end, I actually wrote out a treatment or framework for a Vampire Hunter D RPG on my newsletter that you can check out. It's more of a thought exercise, plugging in just the myriad elements from the first book into a Year Zero engine framework. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I've written there, either in a comment on the article or here in this video. I'll leave a link to the article below. In this video, I want to go over every monster that D himself faces in Book 1, or Volume 1, of Kikuchi's novel series. Again, the world is practically begging to be a lavishly adapted role-playing game, so I'm couching each of these monsters in a manner that could be adapted by a game master prepping a session. But I don't want to get too specific with statistics or anything. We'll just keep it rules agnostic. I'm going to start with the first monster that D faces, but then I'll be jumping around a bit. Garo is a true werewolf, not one of the synthetic types. He shows up escorting a noble, that is a vampiric overlord, in a black carriage to the young human protagonist Doris's farm at night. Doris fires a rifle at him, but Garo is fast enough to dodge bullets and dart around. He attacks at 370 miles per hour, and he can shift direction in midair. His greatest defense is pretty brutal. It is near instant regeneration, as well as a hide tough enough to shrug off gunfire. Unlike most werebeasts in this world, Garo's not engineered. He's the real deal. He transforms under moonlight, and he has brutal, monstrous instincts. It appears that Garo's regeneration fails against enchanted weapons or master-level swordsmanship. He's also overconfident, attacking head-on without testing his opponent. His speed is lethal, but predictable to someone faster. Next is Raye Leon, the bandit leader turned vampire wannabe. He's the slick, silver-tongued leader of a gang called the Fiend Corps, but he's not loyal to anyone, human or vampire. He's gunning for the throne of the main antagonist of the story, the vampiric noble Count Magnus Lee. He He doesn't fight like a brute, he fights smart. His signature weapon is a Shrike Blade, a high-velocity boomerang razor that can slice a man in half. He also uses hostages, distractions, anything that can give him an edge in a situation. His defense isn't physical for the most part, it's manipulation. Raye weasels out of conflict, plays both sides, and talks his way out of death more than once. Raye Ginsei's true power is revealed late in the story. He's a dimension twister, able to create extra-dimensional passageways through his torso. This means that when someone stabs or shoots him, the weapon passes through a dimensional gateway and emerges from their own bodies instead. This makes him nearly untouchable in combat, as his attackers literally wound themselves. He's also a pretty good strategist who manipulates both the Count and other humans, playing both sides to secure vampiric immortality for himself. He has a cold and calculating nature as well. He sacrifices his own gang members without hesitation when it serves his ambition to join the nobility. Raye's weakness is his pride. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, including 10,000-year-old vampires, but he's not. The Midwich Medusas are ancient demons that predate the nobility, 3 beautiful women's heads attached to a single massive serpentine body with a fish-like tail hidden beneath the water's surface. Dee encounters them in a subterranean aqueduct beneath Count Lee's castle. They appear as 3 disembodied female heads floating in a misty pool, surrounded by countless skeletons with crushed ribs and spines. Their primary weapon is their enormous mass of black hair that spreads invisibly through the water, immobilizing victims while they coil their lengthy necks around prey. Their true feeding method isn't bloodsucking, but consuming the aura of pure rapture from victims they've reduced to wanton creatures of desire. They've survived tens of thousands of years through dwelling in forgotten places. Their secretions create a false water environment that camouflages their hair tentacles. The 3 sisters share one conscious body. They've outlived their own legends and have powers that make them nearly impossible to destroy by normal means. They can be dominated by a stronger vampiric will. Dee unleashes his vampire side to drink their blood and enslave them, forcing them to lead him to an exit. Count Lee ultimately executes them with robot sentries when they help Dee escape. Golem the Tortureless is a human mutant with a massive frame and bronze-like skin. He serves as the muscle in Raye Ginsei's Fiend Corps gang. He first appears with the Fiend Corps when they ambush a security patrol on the main road. Later, he confronts Dee alongside Raye Ginsei when they first meet in the ruins known as the Devil's Quarry. Golem attacks with a massive machete capable of decapitating a horse. His fighting style relies on brute force and overwhelming strength, combining cat-like stealth with devastating power. His most remarkable trait is his impenetrable bronze-like skin and muscles that render him immune to cutting weapons, bullets, and even high-frequency wave sabers. Golem is unnaturally silent, despite his size, able to move with the footfalls of a cat. His physical structure makes him nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, with only his open mouth presenting a weakness. Dee exploits Golem's single vulnerable point, that open mouth, by thrusting his sword into it during their battle. While Golem's exterior is impenetrable, his internal organs remain as vulnerable as any human's. He also fights very predictably, relying on his skin defense rather than any sort of real strategy. Gimlet is a human mutant with a streamlined, rocket-like body built for extreme speed. He serves as the assassin in Raye Ginsei's Fiend Corps gang with a pointed, aerodynamic head that earned him his name. Gimlet appears with the Fiend Corps during their ambush of the Frontier Defense Force patrol. He later confronts Dee alongside Raye Ginsei and the other gang members at Devil's Quarry. Gimlet attacks with superhuman bursts of speed reaching 300 miles per hour, using a Bowie knife to strike from multiple angles simultaneously. His signature technique is creating after images by moving in short bursts, pausing briefly, then resuming, surrounding victims with illusory copies of himself. His defense relies entirely on disorientation and speed. Enemies can't hit what they can't track. The multiple gimlets, visible from all directions, confuse opponents and make targeting nearly impossible. Thanks to his mutation, Gimlet can maintain impossible speeds that normal humans could never achieve. His hairless, feature-free body is perfectly streamlined to reduce wind resistance during his sprint attacks. Dee neutralizes Gimlet by refusing to move or react to his illusory duplicates. By standing perfectly still with his sword pointed forward, Dee forces Gimlet to attack from behind, a predictable angle that allows Dee to counter with deadly precision, cutting him from collarbone to spine. Chulla is a human mutant with a massive hump on his back that serves as host to a swarm of minute poisonous spiders. He's also a member of Ray Ginsei's Fiend Corps gang. Chulla appears alongside the Fiend Corps during their ambush of the Frontier Defense Force patrol. He's described as a hunchback when the group first confronts Dee in the ruins. His attack method is uniquely indirect. His hump splits open to release a massive cloud of tiny venomous spiders that swarm his opponents. The spiders produce pustule-causing venom that leaves victims covered in dark red, discharging, oozing swellings. His defense relies on distance, staying away from direct combat while his spider swarm does the damage. The spiders in his hump appear to share a hive mind or central control as they respond to his will and return when called. They can cover large areas in seconds, making them nearly impossible to avoid by conventional means. Dee defeats Chulla without direct combat by using his left hand's mysterious power to inhale the entire spider swarm in seconds. Once separated from his spiders, Chulla becomes merely an empty husk with the shape of a man before Dee delivers the killing blow. Night clouds are a dangerous carnivorous entity created by the nobility, a semi-transparent airborne organism that appears as a glowing white, shape-shifting cloud capable of coalescing from scattered cellular components. A night cloud appears at the Lang farm shortly after Dee has been staked, swooping down from the sky as a host of white, semi-transparent membranes that swirl together to form a single predatory mass. They attack by enveloping their prey completely and digesting them alive, absorbing victims from all sides simultaneously. They move silently through the air before flattening themselves to slip through small openings when pursuing prey. Their amorphous, translucent nature makes them difficult to combat with conventional weapons. Their bodies can reform from single-cell organisms, suggesting they possess remarkable regenerative capabilities. They survive by day in the freezing stratosphere, descending to hunt at night. They can pass through extremely narrow gaps and contain oddly shaped organisms visible through their partially transparent bodies. Their digestive process is fast and efficient. Dee witnesses one dissolve a cow in a matter of seconds. Despite their ethereal appearance, night clouds can be destroyed with a single slash from a sword, which causes them to lose their cohesion, emit a whitish steam, and soak into the earth. They appear vulnerable to precise cutting attacks that disrupt their cellular structure. Larmica Lee is a vampirous noblewoman, daughter of Count Magnus Lee, and heir to the Lee family legacy that has ruled the frontier region for 5 millennia. She arrives in a black carriage at Doris's farm, dressed in a snow-white medieval dress with golden hair, determined to prevent her father from making Doris his bride. She demonstrates extraordinary reflexes by catching and returning Dee's wooden needle at the same velocity. She also employs psychological warfare and manipulation. Like all nobility, she possesses a force field that can repel attacks, supernatural regeneration, and the ability to control lesser beings. Beyond typical noble powers, Larmica develops a romantic obsession with Dee. She is later punished by her father using time-bewitching incense, which causes her severe pain as it simulates daylight conditions that harm vampires. She's vulnerable to the holy mark of the cross that Dee places on Doris's neck, and again, she's also susceptible to the time-bewitching incense, like all nobility, and ultimately chooses to remain in the self-destructing castle rather than continue her immortal existence. Count Magnus Lee is an ancient vampire noble who has ruled the Ransilva district for 5 millennia. He embodies the faded glory of vampire civilization, once part of the aristocratic ruling class that rebuilt the world after nuclear devastation, now a territorial predator clinging to outdated notions of nobility and power. Lee first appeared as a silhouette disembarking from his black carriage at Doris's farm. He's described as a massive figure garbed in sable, with a distinctive black cape, pale countenance, and fangs protruding over mean, red lips. His physical presence is commanding enough to overpower Doris's electromagnetic barrier and defense weapons. The Count employs multiple attack strategies. He uses telepathic commands to control victims who've felt his bite, demonstrates telekinetic control over his blood-lacquered cape, which can become razor-sharp or adhesive at will, and possesses overwhelming physical strength that allows him to catch Dee's sword bare-handed. He's also shown using Garou, the werewolf, as his attack proxy. His defensive capabilities are also formidable. He maintains a force field that neutralizes projectiles. He demonstrates regenerative abilities that allow him to withstand a javelin through his abdomen without concern, and carries time-bewitching incense that can transform day into night to maximize his power. The mysterious hill that houses his castle creates a spatial distortion that makes it nearly impossible for humans to reach his stronghold. Beyond standard vampire powers, Lee possesses the ability to transform victims into vampires through his bite and can create living dead servants who deliver messages through their victims' mouths. His castle is equipped with advanced technology, including spy satellites, robot sentries, and automated defense systems. Most distinctively, his cape, quote, stitched together from the skin of women who'd slaked his thirst and lacquered with their blood, functions as both weapon and defense, able to ensnare opponents with adhesive properties while slicing like a blade. Despite his power, the Count shares traditional vampire weaknesses. He cannot approach the holy mark, Dee placed on Doris's neck, he's vulnerable to wooden stakes through the heart, and his power wanes during daylight hours. He is also susceptible to garlic powder. His greatest weakness proves to be his obsession with making Doris his bride, which blinds him to betrayal and eventually leads to his downfall. So there you have it, the mutants, monsters, and nemeses that Dee faced in Book 1 of Vampire Hunter D, each one with distinctive attacks, abilities, and weaknesses. And like I mentioned, this is just scratching the surface of the Vampire Hunter D universe. Which of these adversaries do you think you would incorporate into a game session? I'd love to know how you would adapt them and what rule system you would use. Also, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a breakdown of all the monsters from Vampire Hunter D Book 2. I've left links for everything below. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you in the next one.